Hey, beautiful people. I just got done cutting the grass, so I thought I'll sit outside and talk to you all. Cutting the grass is actually a good way for me to get some exercise in where it wasn't too hard on my body. But let's get into these points from earlier. So, heavy cycles. So a lot of times when we're growing up, when we first start our cycle, or even as an adult, a lot of us can be in pain. We're having to call to work. We're having to miss days of school, and we're told that, oh, that's normal. Get on a heating pad, um, stuff like that. And what I've learned now is that that's not normal. A lot of times they just want you to push through because this affects a lot more women than people know of, and that is one of the main signs that things aren't going the way it needs to. Because there's no way that you should be curled up in a ball. For me, my cycle was so bad. I was like, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but hey, bleeding through clothes. Um, so yeah, if that's what you're dealing with, that's not normal to be in that much pain. I will say, well, once I had the surgery, I will say that the pain eased up after surgery, but not the heavy bleeding. So, but yeah, please advocate for yourself. At least try to get a doctor to maybe pay a little more attention to your pap smear if you are in a lot of pain. So, cysts coming and going. So, a lot of times we get cysts naturally, right? So, we get these follicles that grow, and when they get to a certain size, from what I understand, they are then considered cysts. But if they stay a certain small size, they're not. I guess I got to look up and I'll put on here what the actual size is for it to be considered a cyst. But once it reaches that size, um, it's a cyst and it can come and go. And I think that is due to your hormones, your cycles. So with most cysts, they will come and go and you won't even know. For me, when it came to my cysts, they were coming and sometimes they would rupture, which would cause me just be in a lot of pain. And I just keep getting them. Every time I go to the doctor, whatever, no matter what they do, whether it be a pap smear or any type of scan or any type of anything, when they're checking, I always have cysts, just always. Um, the most they say they can do when it comes to cysts, and this is kind of leading to my next point of fibroids, is that they can put you on a type of like birth control or anything like that. But of course, that doesn't work, especially if you're trying to conceive or if you just naturally don't want to change the nature of your body. That was one thing I didn't want to change, is how my body acts and how it responds and just how it operates. So I wasn't big on wanting to take a birth control, but that is something I recommend if it's something that um, if you're not really trying to conceive anytime soon and you want help with your cyst or fibroids. So we'll ease right into fibroids. With fibroids, I know some people who have a lot of them. They've had to go to the doctor and get like more than 10 removed, but that didn't mean they had endometriosis. And then you have me who only had two fibroids, and I did have endometriosis. And like I said, I mentioned in other videos that ultimately my fibroid got so big that they thought it was my appendix getting ready to rupture, but it wasn't. It was my fibroid. It had got really big, and I went to the hospital. They then told me I need to see my specialist, and ultimately, that's when my specialist was like, "I think you have endometriosis," and that's when I had to have two laparoscopic surgeries where they go in with the camera and then they look at everything and they try to scrape it out, blah blah blah. I talk about that in another video. So, is there anything else to say with that? So fibroids don't necessarily, just overall fibroids don't mean that you may have endometriosis, but it is something that could be a sign and something you want to bring up to your doctor and have them pay a little more attention to. I will say that just by, and this was a little invasive, but just by my doctor doing not a pap smear, but something very similar, that's how he was even able to like kind of think I had endometriosis. So there is a way for your doctor to kind of guesstimate, or uh, try to see if you have endometriosis without doing laparoscopic surgery. But only a laparoscopic surgery will confirm it. That's the only way they will actually be able to diagnose you with endometriosis. Trouble conceiving. If you have been trying to conceive for more than a year and you're going to the doctor and they tell you it's unexplained infertility, it potentially could be endometriosis. Because a lot of doctors don't want to take the time, and once again, because I said laparoscopic is the surgery is the only way to really get diagnosed, a lot of times doctors aren't trying to put surgery, right? They want to push, you know, anything that's less invasive to the body. But if that's the only way to diagnose it, how would you know, right? So I believe a lot of women who have unexplained infertility probably actually deal with endometriosis because it wasn't my endometriosis that was causing the pain in my body. It was the fibroid ultimately that, like I said, got me to the hospital, not the endometriosis. Um, so please ask your doctor if you've been trying to conceive, maybe try to get referred to a actual fertility clinic. I've sensed that dealing with the OBGYN doesn't necessarily help. Um, but try to go to a fertility clinic to try to get more help when it comes to like what could be the problem. Um, Endometriosis isn't always the case, but if I was a betting man, um, so when I did, moving on to my next point, when I did go to the doctor, one thing he asked me, he was like, "Do you have pain during adult fun time?" And y'all know what I mean by that. And I really couldn't answer that at the time. That is something that you should pay attention to. If you're having pain during that, or if you're having pain when you're using the bathroom, and that could be one or two. I think most people I've spoken with that deal with most people I've talked to that deal with endometriosis, endo, they mostly just have pain when it comes to having a bowel movement. And that's only because endometriosis does affect your intestines. So I guess when I say trouble using the bathroom, that could also mean like if you're constipated a lot. Um, because for me, that was one thing he asked me as well. He was like, "Are you having issues using the bathroom?" And that was the issue for me, and that's because the endometriosis had actually already started affecting my intestines. So therefore, it was making it hard for me to use the bathroom. So I honestly, when it comes to endometriosis, I kind of feel like it kind of reminds me of like COVID, right? There were so many signs and symptoms that remind you just a regular cold and flu that it was kind of hard to say, yes, it's COVID. But it's like anytime you sneezed or coughed or had a fever, it's like, yeah, I got COVID. But it's like there was no real way of knowing unless you took a test. So there's no real way of knowing if you have endometriosis unless you go have the surgery. I wish there was a less invasive way of finding out. Um, But if you're having any of those five things I named, then it's a very high possibility. Um, I'll be making more videos about my journey with endometriosis and things I've learned um, over time. So I am stage 4. I think I have a lot of knowledge at this point. So subscribe, stay tuned, and I'll fill you in some more.